All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started so we can all go out and enjoy the sunshine today. It is gorgeous outside. Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Hazelton, and it's so good to be here with you. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to join me. And today we're going to be talking about inflammation. We're going to be talking about hidden causes of inflammation as well as how to calm inflammation naturally. And I don't recognize anyone, so I'll just, which is great. I love meeting new people. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a licensed nutritionist, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which is a mouthful. I'll be sharing more about that with you. I am a certified microbiome clinical science practitioner, a heart, math, stress, resilience coach. Just giving you an idea of my background so you know where I'm coming from when I'm going to be going through the different topics today. And I bring all that together to provide transformational health coaching for my clients. And I've been doing this for 22 years. I clearly like it. And I especially work with people who are dealing with inflammation of some kind. So either it's gut or digestive, body pain, headaches, trouble sleeping. And I also do work with quite a bit of people who are looking to release weight and essentially anything that they're struggling with. The tools that I teach are a foundation for alleviating symptoms of all kinds. So I'm not a doctor. I don't treat or diagnose any disease. I work at the functional level to help restore what your body knows how to do best, which is to be healthy. So let's start by defining unstoppable health. Unstoppable health means that you're firing on all cylinders, meaning you have the physical, mental, and emotional bandwidth to do what you want to do all the things that you enjoy in life. I really consider your health as your greatest wealth. It's how you go about in the world and do everything else, right? When it's working well, we don't really think about our health too much, right? It's like we just enjoy life. But when we're having issues with our health, it interferes with everything else that we enjoy doing. So we're going to take a moment and do an easy self-quiz. You do not need to state your answers out loud. But this is just an opportunity to, good morning, to scan and check in on maybe where some of your systems might not be working as well as you would like them to work. So some things to consider. Are you dealing with excess weight? Are you dealing with headaches or allergies or osteoporosis, arthritis? Are you dealing with inconsistent or low energy? Are you dealing with some sort of digestive complaint, right? Constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, heartburn. So just checking in, maybe keeping score to yourself on your hand, maybe hypertension, heart disease, some sort of skin condition, psoriasis, eczema. So believe it or not, all those things are related. Even though they don't seem like they would be, they are. And I'm going to be delving into the key to that right now with you, which is your gut. Your gut. We'll be talking about what that is. For now, I'm referring to your gut as your digestion. And it's tied to everything else in your body. And your gut includes your mouth, your stomach, your small and large intestine, and the millions of bacteria that we each have. And they're hard at work all the time. And it's probably clear to you that some sort of tummy trouble would be connected to digestion. That seems more obvious. But our gut and what's going on there is actually connected to everything else in our bodies. And it is when there's imbalance in the gut, it is an indicator of bigger system issues like inflammation, which is going to be the hot topic for today. So changing the health of your gut can actually change everything else in your body. So I'm going to explain more of that as we go along. We'll be talking about how the health of your gut is the number one most important thing to creating optimal health and wellness and for balancing inflammation. We're going to talk about how lack of sleep, inflammatory foods, and a lack of water, and an imbalance of your gut bugs and their waste causes inflammation. And I'm going to be giving you all sorts of tips and There's extra pens up here if you need it, and you're welcome to jot down as much as you want as well. But I'll be talking about 3 different things that you can do today to start building resilience and to create unstoppable health. Did you need handouts? We ran out of handouts, but if you want to sign in there, I will be. I can send it out later. Yeah, or Max can. One of us will.
I also have some paper and an extra couple of pens.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to be going over these different tools in the context of, what your body needs to heal. We'll be talking about how a clean anti-inflammatory diet, optimized sleep hygiene, and supporting your unique gut needs are going to help you to calm inflammation. And when you do that, it leads to improvements to energy, weight, at pretty much anything you can think of. And I do have a free gift I'll be sharing at the end with you as well. So before we get more started, I talk about poop a lot. So I hope that doesn't make anyone uncomfortable, but when we're talking about inflammation and we're talking about the gut, it's just a natural part of the conversation. So I'm very comfortable talking about it. I talk about poop every day with my clients. Luckily, we're not sitting down to a meal, so hopefully it doesn't put anybody off, but it's just going to be a natural part of the conversation today. So as I said, the gut is the key that can really unlock your health and wellness. And I mentioned a moment ago that your gut includes your mouth. There's actually a lot of digestive action that happens right there. We could even start further up. And when we even start to think about eating, there's a whole cascade of events occurring in your body and within your physiology. But the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, your large and small intestine, and all those bacteria. We consider the gut to be the gas station of the body because it's where we take in food, which is fuel essentially, and we're converting it into energy and repair, and it's the fuel that helps us to do literally every single thing. So one of the most important functions of your gut bacteria is related to your immune system. And the immune system is really just, you could say it's the inflammatory system. They work hand in hand very closely as a protective gatekeeper. And about 80% of your immune system is, where would you guess? In your gut. Thank you. Yes, you're paying attention. Yeah, 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So that's what controls inflammation. So that's why I'm talking to you about gut health today. So before diving into the hidden forms of inflammation and the tools that you need to calm it, like I said, I haven't met any of you yet. And just to give a bit of history, very briefly, I was my first client. So I started this workout in 2001. I was actually a personal trainer at the time. And out of nowhere, my little brother got diagnosed with cancer. He was 18. And it was very aggressive, and he fought it hard, but he died when he was 20 years old, which was absolutely devastating. If you've ever lost a loved one, I don't need to explain how horrible it is to watch someone you love go through that. And I was, trying to grow my personal training business and, just basically keep my head above water. I was grieving a lot, and I started to have symptoms. I started to have some brain fog and body pain, headaches, low energy, and it got worse. Even though I was, I knew more than your average bear. I was in the health and wellness field. I was doing everything I could think of to feel better, but it was getting worse, which is very frustrating. So the pain got more persistent. Everything just got worse. I had some digestive symptoms. I put on weight. And the good news, so cut that journey, cut the story short. Luckily, after I completed my postgraduate work in nutrition and functional diagnostic nutrition, I was able to run some functional labs on myself. So these are different than the labs that you would run at your doctor's office. The labs you run with your doctor's offices, they're ruling out disease. They're very important. However, if you haven't gotten to that place, right, and there can sometimes be years before something progresses to a disease, those tests aren't helpful. It didn't tell me anything. I was told I'm fine. I'm not. I knew I wasn't fine. Luckily, the functional lab tests showed me where quite a few things were breaking down within my hormones, within my gut health, and that allowed me to focus in on those areas and to really support myself. And thankfully, I was able to recover and actually feel even better than I did before I started that journey. So I went through, a very challenging time, and that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about sharing what I do with people. That's why I developed systems that I can share with other people, so that if they are going through something similar, they don't have to. They can help their body to heal in a way that maybe they had no idea they could. All right, we're going to dive into inflammation now. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about inflammation. It's a term that we hear all the time, but what is it? What is inflammation? It's actually your body's totally natural response to repair. It's when your body senses something needs attention, either something is injured, damaged or infected, and your inflammatory system comes to the rescue. We've all had colds and flus, I'm sure, right? Those symptoms are terrible, right? Nobody likes a snotty nose and body aches and pains and a fever or a sore throat, but that's actually your immune system fighting to rescue you against something worse, right? So inflammation's not fun, but it's very natural, normal, and protective. So that's when it's working properly. So it's not the bad guy, but it does become a problem for many of us when it gets out of hand, right? If the system malfunctions. An example of that would be autoimmune disease. When your immune system starts attacking your cells, that's a huge problem. That's a malfunction of the system. Another issue with inflammation and where it gets out of hand is if we don't actually, like, it's getting overly triggered by something, right? So that can be a big problem. And so we consider when we don't know what's actually triggering that inflammation, we call that hidden inflammation. Like, we don't know what's triggering it, so therefore we don't know how to avoid it, and we don't know how to help support it, because it's a blind spot. Okay. So inflammation is really a symptom. It's a symptom. It's not the problem. It's a symptom of a problem. And it's really common. Unfortunately, millions of people are suffering from inflammatory conditions, such as arthritis, digestive issues, which is a sign of inflammation, actually. And people are struggling with their weight. So millions of us are suffering. And sometimes we're just attacking those symptoms without actually doing anything to address the root. So we're going to talk about what are some of these causes? What are some of the roots? Therefore, how can we address it? So the first thing we're going to talk about is lack of quality sleep. I don't know about you, but I value my sleep very much. It's one of those things that I guard, and I have since I was a kid. I just, for better or worse, I was never a young person that could just, burn the candle at both ends, stay up, pull all-nighters. I was like, I turned into a pumpkin very early, but I'm glad, right? Because, we are learning how vital sleep is. And we have a lot of research that shows us that both acute and chronic sleep deprivation, which might surprise you what that actually is a cause of inflammation. the more research we do, the more we are seeing how entwined sleep and inflammation are. So I'm going to give you some examples of that. So what we can see on blood tests is when we are getting, and so this is what might surprise you, less than 7 hours of sleep. So I'm not talking about 4 hours, 7 hours. Some practitioners say 6, but most of them agree at 7. So it's not 8 per se, but we'll say in that ballpark of 7 hours of sleep. When we aren't getting that amount of sleep, good quality sleep consistently, our blood shows it. We have higher levels of multiple inflammatory markers, interleukin-6, highly sensitive C-reactive protein. Those levels go up. And interestingly, if we're getting a lot more than the required amount of sleep, if we're getting much more than 8 hours of sleep, that's also associated with higher levels of inflammatory markers. But the research isn't real clear on it. So I consider it that if somebody is sleeping a lot, if they're sleeping 10, 11 hours, they're probably dealing with something, right? Because the body is making them really tired and wanting to sleep. So I don't think that it's the extra sleep that is causing the increased inflammatory markers. I think that there is something going on, and it's just correlated to them needing more sleep. So that's how it makes sense in my mind, and that's what is generally talked about. But definitely shorting our sleep increases the likelihood of inflammation running amok. So poor sleep is linked to a whole host of chronic health conditions: heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, or high blood pressure, and all-cause morbidity and mortality. So basically, getting a disease or dying from anything is linked to sleep deprivation being consistently less than 7 hours per night. So you can see why I'm sharing this with you, right? This is important. This is important. Poor sleep, if we're kind of like following it down the rabbit hole, so we see those inflammatory markers, but if we keep following it, poor sleep also contributes to weight gain and insulin resistance. So you've probably heard of insulin and insulin resistance before, but just in case you have not, insulin resistance is when your cells aren't hearing your hormone insulin. Insulin comes in after you eat and escorts your blood sugar into your cells where you can use it. It's not healthy for it to hang out in your bloodstream. It's actually very bad for us. It's very inflammatory and damaging. So we need insulin in the right levels. We need our cells to listen to it. Like, come on, we're going in the cells now. Insulin resistance is like, hello, we're going in the cells. Can you hear me? You're not listening. Okay. And with insulin resistance, that glucose is not going to efficiently get into your cells. It is going to build up in the blood, and it is very inflammatory when it does that. And usually before that degree happens, as it's happening, you're not feeling very well. You're going to be experiencing some energy fluctuations. You might feel your energy is a lot lower, or it's really inconsistent, like it's high and then, oh my gosh, I need a nap. So yeah, getting tired easily, weight fluctuations, usually weight gain, and yeah, we don't like any of that, do we? We don't want that. And there's even more connections between lack of sleep and inflammation. So we have the lack of sleep and inflammation connection, but there's also a connection between poor sleep and your gut. Who would wager to guess where most of your melatonin is made? In your gut. So about 80% of your melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, it's made in your gut. Melatonin is more than your sleep hormone. Sidebar, it's a massive cancer cell scavenger. So melatonin is a real rock star for our longevity. The gut is where most of it is made. So another reason we love the gut. If your gut is not healthy, can you imagine what's going to happen to your melatonin production? Probably not going to be good, right? So we're not going to get that robust amount of melatonin that's helping us to be sleepy and sleep well. We're also not going to get the cancer cell scavenging action of it. So the point of this is that if you're having trouble sleeping, that points the finger at your gut because that is where most of your melatonin is made. Yeah. So you could have an imbalance in your gut that's affecting your sleep, but it's also causing inflammation. So what do we do about it? Well, the first tool that I have for you for calming your inflammation naturally is to optimize your sleep hygiene. There's a lot that could be said about sleep. I mean, I work just on this with clients sometimes, but optimizing your sleep hygiene is such an amazing place to start. And I can't tell you how many of us resist it. Whatever, but it's important. So choosing a bedtime that allows you to get enough sleep sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't do it. So choosing a bedtime that gives you the best chance of getting that 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night is one of the keys to getting a good night's rest. And this is, based on circadian rhythms. Like, we all have an internal clock of when our organs repair themselves and when, housekeeping internally occurs. Doesn't care if we want to stay up. It has its own preference. So it doesn't care if there's a good show on late. It needs to do what it needs to do when it is scheduled to do it. So based on that, a real good range of sleep time is 10 o'clock at night to around 6 in the morning. It's not an absolute hard and fast rule, but it's a pretty good range for most people. Second tip I have is to practice a calming routine that starts at least an hour before you want to be asleep. I had a client who had insomnia for over a decade. She resisted this. She tried everything else, and it didn't work very well. She was really trying to get off of sleep medication. What she was taking was actually causing kidney damage. And finally, she leaned into this tip of starting an hour before bedtime, winding down. How do you think she's sleeping now? Real good. Yeah, she couldn't believe it. She was embarrassed. Why did I resist that? It has made a huge difference. Third tip is to set the tone, dim the lights, and choose activities that are going to calm your nervous system. I'll be talking a bit more about your nervous system, but calming your nervous system. So that could be reading, pleasant things, listening to mellow music, cuddling with someone, doing some sort of meditation, or heart math. What is heart math? Who's heard of heart math? I'm just curious, because it actually was developed locally. Okay. Oh my goodness, what a delight to be able to share it with you. So heart math, so heart, 2 + 2, math. This is a form of stress reduction. And essentially, this organization started as a nonprofit, and they've studied the effect of stress on the human body and on health, and learned some very scary things about it. Then they developed tools to help mitigate that. And they actually did quite a lot of work in ER and in NICU, like in infant emergency situations, and studying the effect of having a regulated heart rhythm and how that affected the health of the person, but also the health of the people near that person. Infants who were fighting for their lives in this case. So it's very powerful, very powerful. And what I love about heart math techniques is that I think they're superior in some ways to meditation. I think meditation's amazing, a lot of good research on it. But heart math tools, you can do them on the go. You can do them right here. You can do them when you're walking away later, when you're driving, when you're doing anything. Heart math techniques travel with you. You can do them at any point. So why I love that for myself as well as everyone that I work with is that oftentimes we need tools right there in those moments. So we're not just draining lots of energy when something upsets us, okay? And it's crazy. If you get highly agitated by something, that effect on your physiology, on your cortisol, talk about cortisol in a second, that can last like 4 hours. So that's a significant chunk of time, unless you're doing something to help return your nervous system to baseline. So heart math is a wonderful technique for doing that. In a nutshell, heart math is when you shift your attention, so what you're focused on, as well as how you're breathing, making your breath slower and deeper, very intentionally. And why, and that's the tip of the iceberg of heart math. There's a lot of other layers to it. But why this is so effective is that there's a four-way connection between your heart, your lungs, your brain, and where else would you guess? Your gut. Heart, lungs, brain, and gut. There's a four-way connection. It's all connected via the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the human body. Every beat of your heart is sending information up to your brain, to your amygdala. Anybody heard of the amygdala before? Your amygdala is this hyper-vigilant part of your brain. It's basically like, what do I need to do? How can I help? Do I need to panic? It's always like ready to take action to protect you. So it's like this all the time. And your heartbeat sending information up, every single beat of it. When you regulate your breathing and you intentionally adjust your emotional state, that beat changes and sends different information up to your amygdala. It's basically like, there, we're cool. We don't need to pump a lot of cortisol out, which is your body's primary stress hormone. Well, cortisol is a catabolic hormone. Catabolic breaks down. If you like your muscles, your bones, your connective tissue, high cortisol, not doing you any favors. So that's a very one of the nuances in simply saying why chronic stress is bad for us, right? It breaks our body down, okay? And your emotional state is directly linked to your cortisol. So a lot of times we think of feelings as, oh, whatever, but they're molecules. They actually show up in your chemical response and have a very real effect on all of your cells. So one of the other cool things about doing heart math or any sort of regular self-regulation tools is it helps calm that high cortisol response or an overactive cortisol response. It amplifies your DHEA. There's some fabulous research that the Heart Math Institute has put out about DHEA production, which is the counter-regulatory hormone to cortisol. We need them to be in balance. We need them both. They're important, but we need them to be in balance with each other. We don't want cortisol being up here and DHEA being down here. We need them to be in a certain ratio. It's very important. Heart Math also supports oxytocin production, and oxytocin is a hormone that helps support your gut. We're seeing all the things coming together. So I had a client, Teresa, who came to me. She was working with a chiropractor. She had insomnia. She had back pain. She had digestive issues. She'd been trying to so it's like, which came first, right? Well, she was working with a chiropractor, and it was a great chiropractor, but it wasn't resolving her pain. And she wasn't sleeping well because of both the pain and digestive issues. When I worked with her, we identified some imbalance in her gut, including H. pylori. Some of you may have heard about H. pylori infection in the gut. And through resolving that, she was able to resolve the other two symptoms. So now she's digesting her food, she's not having all this upset, she's able to sleep, and her back pain resolved because her inflammation went down. She was sleeping better. And her inflammation went down because she didn't have this active infection going on that was preventing her from sleeping. Let's talk now about the second hidden cause of inflammation, which is an inflammatory diet. But this term gets thrown around like there's one inflammatory diet, just one, and all you have to do is avoid that. Who thinks that's true? There's just one inflammatory diet, right? I know, I wish too, make my job easier. There's not. Many things can drive inflammation, some of which would shock you. But that's a talk for a different day. Generally speaking, things that are not good for any of us are, there's some caveats here, but vegetable oils, soy, canola, corn oil, they're not vegetables. They're not vegetables. We call them vegetable oil to make them sound like something we would want. We don't want them. They're inflammatory. They're very high in omega-6 fats. If you think about inflammation being a car, omega-6 is the gas. Omega-3 is the brakes. We need them both, right? Driving along, you need them both, but if you have your foot on the gas the whole time, it's going to be a problem. So we don't like things that are just way too high in omega-6 and they're overused. They're in so many things. That's why it's a problem. Trans fats, that's a certain chemical structure of fat that's usually found in processed foods. That's why processed foods is on here. High amounts of sugar, even natural sources, your body does not care if it was a lot of honey, a lot of maple syrup, a lot of table sugar. It kind of looks at it like, yeah, you're pretty much the same thing, right? Dairy is not a problem for everyone, but dairy is definitely a problem for a lot of people. So especially when it's been processed or, full of hormones, that can cause inflammation in the body. Not going to get into too many of the others. Gluten I get asked about a lot. Gluten is inflammatory because it is such a large protein molecule. The way that it's structured, it does cause inflammation, but it doesn't cause out of control inflammation in everyone. The body is designed to repair after all. So I say that, this can be something that flicks the domino if there's other things going on that are causing inflammation. And I want to focus on the wrong foods for your body. This is where it gets so exciting because that's different for everyone. So when your gut can't digest and absorb what you're eating, either because it's poor quality foods, you're sensitive to it or intolerant to it, like lactose intolerant, right? I'm not lactose intolerant. One of you might be lactose intolerant. So if you had dairy, you could feel terrible and I feel fine, right? But you don't care what works for my body. You care what works for your body. So that's worth learning. If you're eating too large of portions, those are all things that can drive your body to drive inflammation, and it's going to trigger your immune system to store that food in your fat tissue, and it does that to protect you. So it's one of the mechanisms. You can also get horrible diarrhea. That's another way the body can decide, nope, we don't like that. But oftentimes it will increase fat storage, especially visceral. So fat tissue becomes its own problem. It acts like its own organ, and it releases pro-inflammatory chemicals. Fat tissue. I don't see jaws on the floor. I'm very surprised. I was shocked when I learned that. I was like, if your fat makes inflammatory chemicals, that's crazy to me. So cytokines and other inflammatory chemicals that interfere with the way your body works. They interfere with your other hormones that actually regulate your appetite. So here's a catch-22, is if you are eating the wrong diet, so, eating things your body does not like, your body's going to store more fat. When your body stores more fat, those fat tissues release these inflammatory chemicals. Those inflammatory chemicals make you want to eat more. And obviously that's going to make you gain more weight, put on more fat, have more inflammation. You with me? This is not good, not a good cycle at all. It really drives up inflammation. And then your poor liver, our livers are like the overworked, underpaid employee. Your liver does so much to protect you and to detoxify things from your body that should not be there, that mean to harm you. Well, those inflammatory chemicals, they're getting pumped into your body, and your liver has to process them. It has to filter them. It has way too much to do already. And so it's like going to increase that visceral fat storage because it just can't keep up. So it's just like, I'm going to put that aside and deal with it later is really what ends up happening. So it's a very vicious loop. So before I give you the next tool to help you have an anti-inflammatory diet, I do want to look at water real quick here. Water plays into inflammation. Water is an essential to healing inflammation and to helping your gut to function properly. It makes up the majority of the lubricant in your joint tissue, in your spinal column, and of course your gut. So that water is helping flush toxins from your joints and your gut. Who thinks that's important? So when your body becomes dehydrated, it steals water from those areas. Like, all right, we didn't get enough. We're going to take some from your joints. We're going to take some from your gut. And that allows those toxins to linger. And you feel crummy. We all know what it feels like to be dehydrated, right? Yeah, oftentimes you get a headache, your body hurts, your muscles hurt, your joints hurt. You might get constipated. You might get migraines. That's the reason. So let's look at the second tool for calming your inflammation naturally, which is an anti-inflammatory diet. So anti-inflammatory foods are going to support you to feel better and reduce your inflammation. So let's look at what that is. So I've got a whole bunch of tips lined up for you.
How much water is enough water?
It's not the same for everyone, but in general, about half of your body weight in ounces. And that if someone is, it gets a bit muddled. If someone is much over their ideal weight, it might not be quite half of their body weight in ounces. So I don't just go off of ounces. I pay attention to how much is somebody urinating, what color is it. So I ask them to pay attention to those things. You know, if someone is drinking far less water than half of their body weight, they might feel really helpless hearing me say that. So if that's you, don't freak out. Just set a goal to increase by 4 ounces for the next week. You know, just bump it up a little bit and let your body adapt to that higher amount of water. Because if you just start pounding, 20, 30, 40 more ounces than you're used to, you're not going to be retaining it. You're going to be peeing all the time. You're going to be pretty unhappy. It's not going to be a habit that sticks. So there is a way to do it with more success, which is to gradually do it and let your body acclimate. Thank you. Good question. Okay, so eating clean food as often as possible. That's the first tip. But more specifically, pesticides are not good for us, but some of them are very damaging. Glyphosate is one of them. Glyphosate or Roundup is quite harmful to your microbiome. The data that we're seeing, and we probably will learn much more as time goes on, it damages your blood sugar. It's linked to elevated blood sugar levels. So if you've ever heard of someone who is thin but has diabetes, it's sometimes linked to their amount of toxins that they're bringing in through pesticides. It can disrupt blood sugar all on its own, which is terrifying. So I recommend, has anybody heard of the Dirty Dozen, the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen? Yeah, some of you have. Some of you haven't. It's a great resource. They have an app. You can just go on their website, and every year they put out a list of the least sprayed produce items and the most toxic, heavily contaminated produce items. If you can eat organic all the time, I recommend it. If you cannot, I really recommend avoiding the Dirty Dozen. So like when I travel, if I'm not going to an organic restaurant, I love spinach, but I don't want to get spinach. It is always in the Dirty Dozen. And strawberries. So I'm like, nope, not eating. That's something I enjoy at home, but I don't enjoy it if I'm not going to be eating organic because I know it's just loaded with chemicals. All right, tip number 6 is to eat plenty of these clean veggies, leafy greens, and fruits on a daily basis. They provide fiber, they provide phytonutrients. Your gut bugs love produce, okay? This is like what they eat is that fiber and that, mostly fiber, but also some starch. And also, if you, it is recommended that you have a little bit of fat or oil with your vegetables. And the reason for that is that many of them have fat-soluble vitamins, and you won't get them if you're not having some fat with them. So vitamins A and D are important fat-soluble vitamins for your immune system, for your inflammatory response. So that's an added way that you can boost that up. So they do need some fat to be properly absorbed. Tip number 7 is to balance your omega-6s and 3s. I talked about the gas and the brakes. So we do need omega-6 fats. We just also want to make sure we're not just having omega-6 fats. So to offset them, seek out omega-3 rich foods. Omega-6 you're going to get. So seek out those omega-3s. Chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, wild-caught salmon, sardines, grass-fed beef, pastured eggs and chicken. Those are all great sources for omega-3s. Walnuts are also pretty great. Tip number 8 is avoid eating animals that are raised on corn and soy-based diets most of the time. I don't think any of us can avoid it 100% anymore, but they are really high in omega-6s. It's like shocking, the comparison on paper. If you have something that's pastured and fed its native diet versus fed corn and soy, the fatty acid profile is nothing alike. So that's a great thing that if you don't already do that, start to dabble in that. Plus it's delicious. Tip number 9, look on the labels when you're buying your meat. I mean, there are labels at the butcher department, and you do want to be looking for those 100% grass-fed, right? Otherwise, I can elaborate on this very briefly. If the animal wasn't fed, if it was fed garbage at the end, it would be like we ate healthy our whole lives and then we ate only Snickers at the end. Of course it's going to impact the health of that animal. Of course it is. Tip number 10 is to buy oils in dark bottles, especially, and I do recommend olive oil. Olive oil is a very healthful oil, unless you have an allergy, of course. But buy it in a dark bottle. You don't want it in clear glass. You want it in that green or that brown glass, because oxygen and light and heat all damage oils. If you're getting flax oil, sorry, there's like a hair tickling me. There it is. Yeah, those things you want to keep them as high quality as possible. You don't want them to become rancid and damaged, because then that's not going to help your inflammation. That's the opposite. That's like putting lighter fluid on a fire. You're trying to put a fire out, you don't put lighter fluid on it. So you want to keep those the quality of those oils high to help calm your inflammation. And we've got some great herbs and spices. So turmeric and cloves are some of the highest antioxidant, anti-inflammatory spices. Those are great to integrate into your cooking. And berries are also great, gesundheit, especially blueberries, wonderful source of antioxidants, and helps to quash inflammation. I didn't put it on the slide, but I'm a big fan of dark chocolate and cocoa, and that is wonderful as well. Okay, tip number 12. How's everyone doing assimilating this? I'm kind of flying through. We're doing good? Okay, great. So tip number 12, you can help support your good gut health with certain foods like jicama and leeks and green-tipped bananas. So basically unripe bananas, but not hard like a rock. I mean, you can't even eat it, but green-tipped, right? Not fully ripe. Those are higher in prebiotics. Prebiotics feed your bacteria. So that'd be, you'd make your gut bugs so happy eating some of these foods. And tip 13, coming back to that water, about like how much do we want to be drinking? We want to be drinking clean water, so clean filtered water. You might be surprised. You might think like any municipal water source is clean, but on my website, which my website link is on your handout, if you type in tap water, you can search by your zip code, and it'll tell you some information about, it might be good information, it might not be, about what is, when they test the water, what is your water high in? And that can guide you toward which filter makes the most sense for you. Yeah, because we're not all dealing with the same thing in our water. Some of us have, great water, and some of us, we don't. So drinking, I recommend, as I said, half your body weight in ounces, but to ease into it if you're far off that goal. Tip 14, customize your diet. I mentioned before, there's not a one-size diet that fits all. It just doesn't exist. You each have a unique set of nutritional needs. It's as unique as your fingerprints. You may have heard the term biochemical individuality before, but our bodies burn proteins, fats, and carbs at different rates from one another. And it can be very, very different, which means that the protein recommendations I would make for one person are going to be different than someone else, or how much vitamin A they use can be radically different from someone else. Like, we all need protein, fats, and carbs. We all need all the vitamins and minerals, but we do not use them at the same rate. So for some of us, we actually require less of certain nutrients and more of others. So there's testing that I do with all my clients, because this particular test, metabolic typing test, schooled me. And I took this after getting my nutrition license, and I couldn't believe how much more there was to learn. I'm still learning, but it's kind of fascinating. I learned so much more about how to fuel my body, and it made a world of difference in how I felt when I customized versus just like, oh, I'm going to do what this nutrition book says, and I'm going to eat exactly that way. That was not good for me. I really had to shift some things dramatically. It's like turning a radio dial. It's like staticky, staticky. Oh, there we go. And that's what nutrition testing can do for you. So I had a client who was doing kind of that, trying her best to eat well, but Cindy was having diarrhea. She'd been having diarrhea for years. She had as she described, I've got this muffin top I just can't get rid of. I'm working out an hour a day. And I don't know what else to do. And we fine-tuned her nutrition, and it was like we got that radio station dialed in, and all of a sudden, pretty quickly, things calmed down. Her digestive system started working better. She stopped having diarrhea. She thought she was never going to stop. It had been going on for two years, I think. And she released 17 pounds of weight in less than 2 months. I guarantee you some of that was inflammation. I don't think it was all from fat. And looking at her, like, she wasn't an obese person, but she did not feel good in her body. And when we were able to, through her, testing and her own body wisdom, get that dialed in, it made all the difference. She feels great now. So we're going to get into the gut in a second here. This is going to be really fun. So we're going to talk about how the gut acts as the gatekeeper to your immune system and your inflammatory system. But right before we do that, I do want to share with you that I do have a free gift, which is a complimentary Unstoppable Health Discovery session that I'm offering. Obviously, like, as availability allows, but I know I have at least 5 sessions for the rest of April to offer. And every time I speak with people, I get questions about, like, I need help with this. So I decided, to offer this discovery session so people could ask me questions that they didn't want to ask in a group setting. They could ask it privately, or, if you're struggling with a certain health symptom or more than one, we can look at what you've already tried to resolve it, and what hasn't worked, and if I can bring some new insight to the table to support you to feel better. So that's what this is for. And this is definitely for people who are, like, really wanting to get results, not just, passively thinking about, like, that might be cool. Like, I want to work with people who really want to feel better. So if that's you, after the talk, you can use my calendar link, which is on the form, I think it's is it double-sided?
Yes, on the back.
It's on the back, thank you. And you can schedule that. All right, now we're going to get into the gut and how it works a little more deeply. So this represents your gut cells. Those finger-like projections, that's where your nutritional absorption action happens. Okay? This is also called your mucosal barrier, your second skin. These are all different names for the gut lining. And the gut lining is a single cell thick. Very thin. Your skin is 7 layers thick. 1 cell thick. There's 1 cell between anything passing through that you ingested or breathed and your bloodstream. Pretty wild. That bottom area, that's your bloodstream, by the way. So if you think of it like a tube and you have this 1 cell thick all the way around, and then after things pass through, then it gets into your bloodstream. So the job of this mucosal barrier is to absorb nutrients, to bring in things that we want, and to keep out all the rest. Keep out that glyphosate, keep out those pesticides, keep out that cold and flu bug, and basically everything that we don't want in the system. It's an intelligent system. Okay, that's when it's working. It's very intelligent. I also, in case you all need an added visual, I think of the gut lining as like a screen on a window or a door, right? It lets in air and light, fresh air and some light, but it keeps out the bugs and the birds. So that's what we want. We want this nice filter. However, pathogens, gut imbalances, they're opportunistic, okay? They will get in if they can. What are some of the things that break down that lining? Well, we just talked about one, the wrong foods for your body, or just a poor diet in general, lack of sleep, right? Chronic sleep deprivation, not being active, eating, your eating habits can actually disrupt that system. So eating quickly, not chewing your food well, dehydration, lots of stress without regulating your nervous system, taking, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, that can all, certain medications even, that can really damage that lining and create a perfect environment for bacterial imbalance, infections, and something called leaky gut. Who's heard of leaky gut? Just I'm curious. Okay, a little fewer than half. Okay, great. So leaky gut, as you can see on the slide, a nice normal tight junction. It's when those cells have good integrity. They're kind of stacked side by side, and thou shalt not pass unless you have my permission. A leaky gut is when there's a gap or a hole in that gut lining, and it's like someone pokes a hole through your screen or leaves your front door open. Like, okay, that you're getting in. Oh, we don't like this at all. So that is something we want to avoid. Things are going to get in to that bloodstream, and that can definitely cause inflammation, as you can imagine. It does set the tone for there to be infections, because I know it's not fun to think about, but we're surrounded by germs all the time. But when our gut is healthy, it protects us. We can get in, come in contact with germs, and our body fights it off. We don't even know. However, when it's not working well, we can be a revolving door to infections. So the other thing that I want to mention is that whether you have an infection, like some sort of pathogen, I mentioned my client had H. pylori, which is a spiral-shaped bacteria that embeds in the body, especially the stomach, and it really increases inflammation and interferes with digestion. So yes, we have those infections that can cause havoc, but we also have our very own bacteria that can become a problem because they produce metabolic waste too. So I call, it's like we poop, our gut bugs poop. Their poop is called LPS, or lipopolysaccharide. LPS, much easier. And, you know, if you go to the bathroom in a toilet, it's not a problem. Our gut bugs poop, but we don't have leaky gut, it's not a problem. When we have leaky gut, that waste gets all over the bloodstream and causes widespread inflammation, systemic inflammation. So whether you have an infection or not, having a healthy gut, having healthy gut cells is really important. I'm hoping I'm making that very clear. If you want to have a healthy level of, balanced inflammation and to feel your best. So tool number 3 for calming inflammation naturally is to seal and heal your gut. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but these are some very good tips to support that. So bringing in nutrients to repair damage. Bone broth is excellent. Gelatin and collagen are as well, as long as they're from healthy grass-fed animals, of course. These provide amino acids. They're protein building blocks, specifically proline and glycine, that our gut cells use to repair that damage. Okay, when we have that split, that gap, this can help to repair that, as long as we're not continuing to do things that damage it, right? So it's like if you have a scab and you won't let it heal, then, if you keep picking the scab, it's going to be a problem. So yes, these nutrients are very helpful for helping heal, but you do have to also make sure you're not re-injuring. Fermented foods are also really important, and some of them are more delicious than others. Some people really like fermented foods. Some people like one. But I encourage you to, if you don't currently consume fermented beverages or foods, to add it in. You don't have to add in a large amount. You can definitely choose ones that you like and that like you back. So for example, we talked about dairy earlier. If you do well with dairy, yogurt is a great option. There are some brands that are better than others, certainly, but that's going to deliver some beneficial living bacteria that can help your system to work better and enhance the health of your gut. You can also get fermented pickles. That's like usually an easy one for people, fermented pickles. Sauerkraut is more of an acquired taste. I've acquired that taste. I like sauerkraut. I like kimchi. Kimchi is very high in beneficial bacteria. And so explore at your grocery store. Look at what they've got when it comes to fermented foods. Yeah?
What's 24-hour yogurt?
Yes. 24-hour yogurt is a higher volume ferment. It's more loaded with beneficial bacteria. I believe the brand is White Mountain, I want to say. White Mountain. And yeah, it's a richer, I think it's White Mountain. And it usually comes in a glass container. And some people make their own yogurts as well. I don't. Do you do that? Okay. No. Oh, wow. Impressive. I love it. Now beverages, kombucha is really popular within a lot of, I know my daughter loves kombucha, but it can be really high in sugar. So when people are like, oh, I'm good, I drink kombucha every day, I drink a whole bottle, I'm like, that's a bit like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. So sugar feeds unfriendly bacteria, but the beneficial yeast and other microbes in kombucha feed beneficial bacteria. So is it really getting you somewhere? So having, not a huge portion, checking the sugar on the label, 4 grams is 1 teaspoon of sugar. So use your common sense when looking at the serving size. If it's this much and there's 1 teaspoon, that's a lot better than it's this much and it's 1 teaspoon of sugar. Okay. So in general, fermented foods are going to feed your good gut flora, help strengthen your digestion. There are some contraindications if you have a histamine intolerance or imbalance, or with certain people who have SIBO, that can be an issue. I need to speed it up. Okay, so the last tool I want to mention is that running a great gut test to further explore your gut health can help you in many ways. You can see if you do have a pathogen or a yeast overgrowth, or you can see what your how much beneficial bacteria you have versus maybe not so friendly bacteria. It can really help you to see what's going on in your own gut. And I got to say, it's pretty interesting. I'm a fan. I do that functional test probably more than any other functional test. People ask me for this one constantly because it also can show if you have that extra permeability, that leakiness in your gut. So it can just help you zoom in on what's happening with your gut. How do we help your gut to repair? It could be a very different path than somebody else needs. And it's going to help you balance your inflammation, of course. My client Eleanor, when she came to me, she was dealing with a lot of excess weight, trouble sleeping. She had a ton of cravings. So she was really struggling to lose weight reliably because she just craved unhealthy foods. And she'd be up in the middle of the night and she just would eat. And it turned out she actually had I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 infections going on. And one of them was Candida, which is it's a yeast we all have, but when it's overgrown, it can make you crave sugar where are these cravings coming from? Like these are monster cravings. So when we were able to see what was going on and address that specifically and help rebalance her microflora, she was able to just, not fight herself so much on eating a healthy diet. And then, of course, her sleep got better. And now she's feeling really good and 30 pounds lighter. So in a nutshell, who's going to walk out of here today thinking your gut's pretty special and important? I hope all of you. It truly is the key to calming your inflammation naturally. And ultimately creating unstoppable health, really supporting you. And the 3 tools that I shared with you for how to do that is eating a clean, anti-inflammatory diet and to hydrate your bodies, of course, optimizing your sleep hygiene as to set you up for good quality sleep. And then I also shared some tools for helping you to seal and heal your gut. And we went over 14 different tips together, I think, like a lot of those. So that's going to help you to do these different things effectively. So a big part of what you probably learned today is that symptoms, they're really common, especially symptoms of inflammation, but they're not normal. Symptoms are telling you something's wrong, right? Don't shoot the messenger. There's often so much below the surface, and we don't want to just put a Band-Aid on a symptom. We actually want to address why we're having that symptom so that the problem isn't continuing. Even though we Band-Aided that one symptom, we don't want another popping up in its place or 3 more. So that's why I'm such a huge fan of addressing the root cause. Look deeper, ask why, and it will serve you very well. And my last tip is if you are struggling, definitely get support. There's lots of great books out there and podcasts and different types of practitioners. But if you are struggling, you don't need to. There are people who have done the heavy lifting, and they can most likely help you to get to where you want to go quicker and more easily because they can see through a lot of the challenges. They've been there and done that. And I've been working with people for 22 years. I've worked with a lot of different symptoms, and essentially supporting your base, supporting the foundation of your health. That's where the energy needs to go. Not dealing with the symptoms. Address the base. Your body knows how to be healthy, and if you address that foundation with these tools, you will be better off for it. If you need help, don't hesitate to reach out. You can set up a 15-minute with me. We can talk about what's going on for you. I'm also going to share with each of you, if I can read your handwriting. Please double check. I do my best. But I will share with you my Unstoppable Health Guide probably later today. I will email that out. And we did run a little bit over, but if anybody had a question, I will stick around for a few minutes.
So sorry, just your website is?
choosinghealthnow.com. Yeah. I've got some great recipes on there. And yeah. Oh, when I send out the health guide, I usually send out about 2 newsletters per month. You can unsubscribe if you don't want it, but I really try to, I mean, I do a lot of research for them. I try to deliver a lot of value. So I hope you enjoy that. If you don't, you can always unsubscribe. You had a question, and then, yeah.
What are the tests for MAP GI that you were referring to?
The GI map is a collective test, which looks at beneficial bacteria, not so friendly bacteria, so friendly flora, not friendly flora, parasites, some parasites, there's a lot. So yeah, we look for pathogens, but we're also looking at digestive markers and inflammatory markers and gut function. So it's my personal favorite to get a snapshot of what is going on with someone's gut. Yeah.
How's the test done?
It's a poop test. Yeah.
I think that's what.
You do it, I don't do it. I think she had a question first, and then
Heart Map, is that an app?
it also, yeah, it's an organization and specific tools. They have a whole bunch of resources, books. There is an app. There's different devices that they have so that you can actually, not that you need to, you can do heart math just all on your own, on how you're emotionally self-regulating using the particular tools that they have.
Okay.
I teach my clients how to do it. Generally, it takes several weeks to really feel like you've got it, but they also have biofeedback devices that are measuring your heart-brain coherence. Yeah, they clip onto your earlobe to take your pulse and then measure your heart rate variability to a much more sensitive degree than like a Garmin or a Fitbit would.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Also,
good
when
question.
You talked about the vagus nerve.
Yes,
Somebody told me that humming is
Yes.
very good for that.
you are correct.
Is that-
Yes.
Okay.
Mm. Yeah, and singing and gargling. Yeah, yeah. Fun fun fact, I was just doing research for a newsletter I'll be putting out, I think in about a month, because I plan them ahead, I queue them up, and humming is also great for boosting nitric oxide production, which is great for blood pressure and for your blood vessels. Yeah, you had a question.
I just wanted to ask you said to filter water and to check the water contamination or whatever for your zip code. But
You do.
what about the water that you just buy for quick, you're going somewhere real quick? Is there a difference between like the purified water, the volcanic water, the spring water? Do you have
Yes.
a brand name?
Yes, so we might, that's going to potentially open up a whole other topic of microplastics. So, yeah, so you can have like, you might not have certain contaminants and they've been filtered out, but if you're drinking out of plastic, I don't recommend that because the human body is actually not capable of properly filtering out all of microplastics.
What if they all came in glass? Would it be
Yeah,
volcanic, or
then-
would it be purified or would it be?
I think any of those are great options.
But even
yeah.
purified? With all the minerals taken out of it, they're okay?
I consider,
Still
what's,
purified.
no, I don't recommend that.
Spring is different.
Okay.
Yeah, spring. So purify, I was thinking of, oh gosh, what is that water called? That's, no,
No, she's talking
Spring
about
water.
things with the smart water.
no, that's not it either. Anyway, there's the one that has all of the minerals taken out. I definitely don't recommend because
Purified,
you're,
okay.
well, there's another name for it. It's like
Zero?
oh my gosh, where?
Ah,
Thank you. I'm like, where is the word? Distilled water. So yeah, now they have all these other terms for it. Yeah, I don't recommend. That's great for putting in, and on certain things, but for your body, you don't want to be using your precious minerals to be able to absorb that water. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I had 2 questions. One, you mentioned you need to have oil when you're eating veggies,
Yeah.
and you're saying they have to go in at the same time. You can't have eaten something that was oily, had some, some olive oil in your smoothie or whatever, and then eat some vegetables. Or I mean, do they just need to be in your stomach at the same time?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
they're working together?
yeah. There can be minutes apart. It doesn't have to, yeah,
But not
absolutely.
like meals apart.
No, not
Okay.
meals apart.
And the second one was lectins
Uh-huh.
were up
Mhm.
there a couple times. Is that one of the things that can cause leaky gut?
Hmm.
And do
Yeah.
those come like mostly from
The peels, the skins of,
Tomatoes.
oh,
yeah,
what-
certain,
What about pulses or
yep, yeah. So there's proper, yeah, we didn't get into that because there's not enough time. No, it's a really good question. And lectins, certainly some people are more sensitive than others. So yes, proper like pressure cooking of beans can help.